As humans, we are naturally evolved to seek dominance and fight for our place in the pack. So it is completely normal to compare ourselves with others across a wide range of skills and capabilities. Indeed, the desire to try something new, to compare it to an original and want to improve, is a fundamental part of the learning process. By continuously comparing, learning, and adapting, we are able to gain insights, improve our skills, and establish benchmarks to measure our development. As Goldston, Day and Son, 2010, noted, comparison is one of the most integral components of human thought. Furthermore, research has demonstrated that the single act of comparing two things can produce important changes in our knowledge. Be careful who you compare yourself to. I vividly remember the first time I ever saw a video of Michael Robinson, the English footballer who moved to Spain in 1987 at the young age of 27. Whatever opinion you have about his giri Britannico accent, his confidence and ability to express himself without hesitation were truly awe-inspiring, at least for me anyway. Although I couldn't quite understand most of what he was saying, having only been studying Spanish for a couple of years at the time, in my eyes, the man was a demigod. I remember thinking, sueño con esto. But the more I watched him, the more discouraged I felt about my own Spanish skills, because I was making an unrealistic comparison between my Spanish and his. Looking back, it seems crazy that I did that. Here was a man who had spent over 2 decades in Spain, a man whose job it was to play football at a professional level, a game which heavily relies on communicating with the rest of your team in order to win. A man whose Spanish was so good that he became a TV presenter, football pundit, and later went on to host his own radio show in Spain. The importance of mindful comparison. It's great to set goals and look up to others for inspiration. However, I believe that we should be very careful when selecting who we compare ourselves to. Constantly comparing your English communication skills to people who are much further ahead in their language learning journey can often lead to feelings of inadequacy, envy, and the mistaken belief that your English just isn't very good. A phrase I hear all too often here in Spain where I live. The downside of unrealistic comparisons. When our aims and ambitions feel beyond our reach, our internal voices are nothing but critical. These voices, often internalized from important figures in our lives, are supposed to keep us safe. Yet when we allow them to dominate our thoughts, instead of us achieving success, it is the debilitating voices from within who spring forth as the winners. These voices succeed in holding us back. They implant overwhelming feelings of inadequacy and paralyzing self-doubt. They ensure that the fear of making mistakes and our desire for perfection prevent us from having our voices heard, meaning we stay silent, letting those around us be seen and progress. When unchecked, unrealistic comparison can lead to jealousy and frustration, creating a sense of defeat when we see others excelling while we struggle. Negative emotions like resentment towards those we admire, chronic anxiety as the constant feelings of shame make every interaction in English feel like a test we're failing. Self-doubt, reinforcing that idea that we're not good enough, which then stops us from speaking up and growing. Ways to use comparison effectively. 1. Compare yourself with your previous self. The most effective comparison, in my opinion, is with yourself in the past. If your English is better now than it was 3 months ago, you're on the right track. This shift in mindset will build your confidence and help you celebrate each milestone, no matter how small. 2. Choose role models who are a small step ahead. Instead of looking at people light years ahead, Focus on those slightly further along than you. Their progress is more attainable and will inspire rather than frustrate you. Language expert and copywriter Lauren Martin expands on this on my forthcoming podcast, From Lost to the River. What you said there was fascinating to me about spending some time with people like that elevated you, and then you moved, and then we're all of a sudden in a group where perhaps you weren't as competent and as confident as the rest of them. But a great word you said there was, that really they were inspirational, that inspired you to improve,
Yeah.
because I don't know how you feel about this, but sometimes there's like a level almost, isn't there? If the goal is too difficult, if everyone around you was absolutely like beyond amazing, do you think that maybe could have like stifled you and destroyed you a little bit? Do you know what I mean? There's almost like a level of, come on, you can do this, versus it's too difficult.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's actually what happened to me while studying my French degree,
Right.
because lots of people on the degree course, I think they either had a French speaking parent or they'd spent a lot of time in France. So they were that kind of
Right.
level of amazing that I just felt was unattainable.
Yeah.
And that made me feel like, not that I should stop trying, but it definitely gave me this idea that I can never be as good as at French.
Right. Yeah. And again, that I can never be as good as them. Again, it all comes down to comparing ourselves with others, doesn't it?
Yes,
You know, and
it does.
it comes through things in many things we do. I mean, imposter syndrome's a classic. I did a chat yesterday about this with some clients, and not just with languages, but with anything we do. I mean, you and your copywriting business, that I'm sure there's ups and downs of days where, I mean, how do you feel about it? How do you feel about you and your talent? Like, is it always, I'm super great at this? Or, I mean,
No, just like you said, it comes in waves. I think one thing I've learned is, especially in my business, is to just learn from a few people who are ahead of me, and look to them for inspiration if and when I need it. But to block everyone else out, because there's always going to be people out there who are better than you. There's always going to be
yeah,
people out there who aren't quite at the level that you're at, both in languages and in level and
mm,
everything really. But we
yeah,
just have this tendency to focus on the people we think are better or further along, and I think that
yeah,
can be so damaging. So if
yeah,
anything, I would say, yeah, just like the best thing to do is choose a few people who inspire you and then block
yeah.
everyone else.
3, focus on progress, not perfection. Even the people you admire have had difficulties along the way, and it's a safe bet to say that they still do. So rather than focusing on the end result, ask yourself, what systems and habits did they put in place to get there? And can I incorporate them into my routine? This puts the focus on what you can control, you and your actions. 4, be kind to yourself. Self-compassion is crucial. It's okay to have bad days or moments where your English doesn't come out quite as you'd hoped. Language learning is a journey full of ups and downs, and kindness toward yourself will keep you moving forward. So to summarize, comparison can be a double-edged sword. It's a powerful tool for learning and improvement when used wisely. But it can also lead to feelings of inadequacy and self-doubt if we let our inner critic get the upper hand. Remember, language learning isn't a race, and everyone's journey is different. Focus on your own path and be proud of the progress you're making.